it do? What it do? What it do, people? Liverpool 12th man here. I'm starting this Tuesday Tactics show that I'm going to basically go into a concise review of whatever the match is, the game that is from that weekend, and also go into a little bit of obviously tactics, also some player evaluations in the sense of reviewing what I believe is the ratings for the match, and to also bring up some different concepts. I appreciate you guys holding out. Big up to John Conway, showing always love. Proper red. I just wanted to say I appreciate you guys waiting a little, having to deal with the wait. In that I was just finishing from participating with Quasi Bowl TV. Wanted to make sure I gave a proper representation on this channel and get the show. But now, yes, it is. I know I'm going against Kloppish and excuse me, Coppish, Kloppish too, but Coppish as well. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and giving me an opportunity and a chance to go over some things with you guys, engage. Hopefully, you guys engage back and really getting a good look at what we're dealing with. So let's just dive right into all this. So obviously, the match that we're going to talk about was the Newcastle match. I wanted to really get into what it was, what your ideas are. If one thing, we'll get into one thing precisely from the very beginning. Did you think that was a red card? I know I'm just going to pull the Band-Aid right off. Did you really think that was a red card? I'd love to hear some people's opinions on that because I'm going to show you some things. Here, let me pull this up for you guys, which is really what I wanted to say too. So here's the play that is in question. Right here you can see, and hopefully that's big enough for you guys to see. If you look at this, I understand he's on the opposite side of Isaac, but that pass is the pass coming into Isaac. Isaac doesn't have control of the ball. He's not, that's not his touch, his first touch, his second touch, or any touch for that, okay? Now, I will accept, if you want, that he possibly gets a piece of his foot, his front leading foot, the one that's stepping, okay, forward. He possibly clips that, okay? And I can concede that could be considered to be a foul. But where the difference is that if you continue on with the process, you'll see he makes contact with the ball long before the ball ever had an opportunity to reach the player. So I'll admit that he did possibly clip again. The player possibly got a piece of the ball of the foot. You see that Isaac definitely made the most of it by reacting the way he reacted. But it was more so he got the ball. In my view, he got to the ball. And that was something important. That's kind of set the tone and the direction for the club completely, despite what we saw with other engagements with Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously, that definitely set another decisive tone or a tone that we didn't want to necessarily be involved in, let's say the least for that. So there is something that I know, and I know that what we're looking at is we are divided. I believe that could have and should have possibly, if anything, been a yellow card, if not a call. I don't agree with the whole, he was the last man back, and that's the reason why, because he had a goal scoring opportunity and all these different things. He made a challenge on the ball. He got to the ball, but he also impacted the flow of it. Now, I've seen, if that's the case, I've seen worse fouls given less of a decisive call. And I think that one thing that was really scary or that we were commenting, the reason why I was so late to getting to the stream was because, I think all of us are asking for is we're all asking for consistency from these referees. We're all asking for consistency in calls. He went straight to that red, as in no hesitation, no, hey, let me make the call, let me allow for VAR to give me further assistance to determine whether it is truly a red card or a yellow card, or even, again, that type of a level of a foul. But it was something that I think was important to look and bring up, because I really didn't think that it was a foul like that. I really didn't think that it was something that was going to dictate that it had to be a red card. And honestly, even with the other calls in the game, considering that we saw Newcastle get called for 16 fouls and get one yellow card be placed upon them, considering that we saw the amount of bully ball tactics that we saw Newcastle perform on the pitch and were allowed to go and get away with, okay? The numerous fouls by Joe Linton, the numerous fouls by Bruno that weren't even admonished by the referee. I think that there was maybe like his fourth or fifth foul. That's when finally got a talking to, and still he didn't present him with a card, but yet he had been fouling all game, physically being bully tactics again. Now, I'm not going to say that you can't perform bully tactics. I'm not going to say that the dark arts that we see from Atletico Madrid, that kind of time wasting or very aggressive tactics that we see these clubs that might not man for man match up with their oppositions, and it's the reason why they have to go to those tactics. I'm not saying that you can't do them. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do them, but I am saying that I am going to call them for what they are. And a lot of what you saw was an unevenly officiated match that presented an uphill battle for this club. And in our own right, we helped create that uphill battle by giving pointless giveaways, not having the intensity locked in from not only the very, very beginning, which I believe that we did. One difference is that I think we came out playing well in this match, but I don't believe that we came out playing to the level that we necessarily needed to play at. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some things here as well. I'm going to pull up this for you guys. Big up to SofaScore. Okay. This is SofaScore rating for the game. Now, on the SofaScore rating for the game, it's something that this graphic at least shows how the ebb and flow of the game. It shows how we went about basically controlling the very beginning of the game, having real possession-based antics going on with the game. But again, that's a big but, and I'm not Sir Mix-a-Lot. Definitely, Chris Angel, appreciate it. Again, I know I'm going up against some of the big boys and everything else, and I do appreciate anyone and everyone, and especially all my Reds that do come by, show love. And again, if you do want to participate, and definitely hit me up on the WhatsApp or on Twitter or however you're linked with me. And if you want to jump in and try to give you 2 cents worth, or be a part of the discussion, definitely hit me up, because Chris Angel's one of the true brothers out there, my Colombian brethren, that I do rate the opinions and the takes and differences that we might have, but I appreciate that he brings some real insight and some real quality building discussion to the table. So again, let's get back into this. You can see that we started off pretty decently, and that it took a little while for Newcastle to really build, and then they had a real obvious opportunity. We then responded with a great counterattack, and then it was more so a little bit of like back and forth-ish, but it was more so that Newcastle definitely had the more decisive opportunities in the first half, especially considering, again, what we had to deal with and go through with the actual penalties or the actual engagements. And that's where you'll see where on the 6th minute, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold giving the time wasting. And in the 28th minute, we had Virgil getting his red card. And then we had to make a real transition when it came to our lineup. So that was something that, really was an issue or something of a difference when it came to what we were dealing with. Okay. Let me show you this now. So let's get into what it was with the actual team. All right. Because the team itself, I was very optimistic with how we lined up. I'd love to hear. Big up to Brian Morrissey, definitely a loyal supporter, another true Red in my mind. Red Army, Red, as I like to reference him now. Positive warrior. Here is what I wanted to show you when it came to our team that we actually brought out. So let me pull up the club and how we lined up on Sunday. All right. So on Sunday, we came out. We had Trent, we had Matip, Virgil, Robertson, Endo, Dom, Mac, Salah, Akpo, Diaz. I'd love to hear if you guys were comfortable with that lineup going in. I'd love to hear if you think that this was a lineup that you believed was the best lineup for us to go forward with. I personally am, obviously, I'm on the Nunez support team. So, so I'm on definitely the board of the committee board with like your Redbirds, and I believe Ryan's on the board on that board as well. And definitely tell me if I'm wrong, Brian, about you being a member. But I saw this lineup and I was optimistic. Big up, Street Hadouken. Big up. Appreciate the love, showing love for sure. What were your ideas? Is this the lineup that you really wanted to see go forward? Obviously, I have all the substitutions already in there and the cards. But were you guys like happy with this selection, or I would love to see who would you have substituted? Not using hindsight, of course, but who did you originally have in your starting lineup? I'd love to hear that. So Brian's saying it's a lineup I predicted, but just by what Klopp was doing, I wouldn't have changed it. Okay, all right, that's acceptable. I definitely can understand what you're saying. I personally, again, I thought that this game was a game that I was looking for Nunez to start. I thought that Nunez could get behind. I think that Nunez's pace and energy would have been a difference than a Hakpo's energy and commitment to the false nine aspect. I didn't think that we necessarily needed a false nine role in this game. I think more so if we had just came out and really just tried to hit him in the mouth with pure offensive, poachers and aggression that way, and having our midfield and obviously Robbo and Trent being more facilitators, and maybe even Salah and Diaz either getting opportunities from being overlooked in their facilitation roles or trying to facilitate our number 9, or if we got into roles where they got openings that they could score. I thought that was our best foot forward. But I could see that Hakpo is a very, very highly rated player for Klopp. That is obviously and honestly what you end up seeing a lot of. So let me see this. Let me pull up this one now. So this is the tactics board I'm going to be using here. Can you guys see this? Give me a thumbs up if this is like, if you're able to see this. I can make it a little bit bigger possibly, but I want to make sure that you see all the subs and everyone else. When we lined up with this tactic, when we lined up with this group, going into it, I saw this back line. You can hopefully, yeah, you can see the marker or my cursor. You could see the what I saw as being their back line of Trippier, Botman, Dan Burn, and Shard. It's a good back line. I'm not saying that it's not a good back line. I just really thought that to take over possession from them, because I wasn't necessarily scared of, and actually, you know what, I have, let me make sure I put Tonali twice. I'm sorry. This was Isaac. To put up, oh, big up, Robbie. Big up, Robbie. Appreciate the love. To look at this tactic board, I thought that this lineup was a comparable lineup still, even though, again, I said I want to see Nunez, I could still see them being able to work against them. Because primarily what I was looking at was this. If we were going to advance, now we can progress it towards, let's progress it to the 10 men. Okay, so I'm going to take out Hackbo. It could be another size bigger. Okay, I'll make it a little bit bigger for you guys. Hopefully that makes it a little bit more. Let me bring one more. Okay, hopefully that does it. And then you know what? What I'll do is I can take down myself from here to help you. I can make it like that. Hopefully that makes it a little bit better. Okay, so what I was saying is this. So let's get into what the lineup looked like after all of the exchanges, okay? Because we were looking at, after all the exchanges, we were looking at Diaz took a seat. We had Salah being in this position. Well, let me pull up this as well. We had McAllister. I think Endo came off as well. We replaced that with Elliott. We replaced it with, let's see, Jota came in. Obviously, Virgil went down because of the red card. Replaced him with Gomez. We had Elliott and Dom somewhat playing this type of double pivot. We had Hanta and Salah. Let me make sure I get this all correct in here. We had Hanta playing somewhat of a deep, like somewhat of a 9, but 10. We still had McAllister playing this role in Salah. And I think Salah actually moved over it. And I think Hata was more like this in the lineup. And correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that's somewhat of how we were looking at it when we were playing with 10 men. So when we were looking at it, we were looking at somewhat, this is actually with the actual substitutions, obviously. And, I make sure I have all this correct. And when you're looking at it, yeah, because, and I think, did I have Hackwell? Yeah, I had Hackwell. So McAllister, we had subbed in. We had Elliott, we had Boss and Salah, and then eventually we did take out McAllister, and we had even Nunez in. So let's put it into the final real lineup of what we had it in, somewhat like this. So this is what it somewhat looked like when we actually got down to the progress of what you were seeing. And what I think you got to see, especially going forward when we were pressing against them and we were pushing, what I wanted to really, what I think was the difference and reason why I thought Nunez was a more natural fit for this match is that by placing these players in, it forced them to have to pressing forward with this. We saw more of a, let me get you. We saw more of a centering of the play, as in the play started to gravitate towards of more of the middle play, as in they started to forget about the width, they forget about the sidelines. We started to focus more on compacting our front by bringing in the play and the actual. We were just kind of saying, you want the wings, cool, but we're not going to concede the middle of the pitch. Okay. And by doing that, and by having these players advance the way they are, having Almiron, Gordon, even your Isaacs, and I know that they ended up switching it up too with how the players that they ended up getting. And I'm going to pull up their players as well. I can change that up. By putting these players on and forcing them to be more central, you're going to create more emphasis on, you're going to create a higher emphasis on trying to opening up Nunez to be able to attack these two backline players. Okay, and that's how I looked at it. I saw it as having Nunez here was something of a genius build. Okay, now albeit they were forced to transition, change up. Obviously, I believe Botman ended up getting an injury, so he was switched out. I believe they had to switch out. Tonali was done and dusted, so he ended up getting switched out. Let's see who else was really under that. Let me pull up their lineups as well. I just thought of it as like you had a situation where you're going to be able to open up these lanes by pressing them in. We were packed in the middle and we dominated the middle. That was something that I thought was great. Now, albeit, there's times there are people, for instance, that were concentrating on the fact that when we became a 10-man front, we consolidated it and compacted it so much that we controlled a lot of the pace and dictation of how the ball and where the ball was going to be able to be played. We understood the fact that we were going to control whatever was going to be. If they wanted to spam crosses, so many of us talk about, the spamming of crosses. If we were going to place that into it and they wanted to go to the presence of having that, be done, then we were allowing that. We were simply going to allow for that. And it made us a more ample team to be ready for that counter press, ready for those attempts. And especially when you're dealing with tired legs, you're dealing with a team that's already nervous about trying to hold on to their 1-0 lead that they got from a gift of a play from one of our better players on our team. That's when those bungalows definitely got tight. And I agree. Here's a important point that Brian Morrissey brought up as well. They had zero shots after the red. Now they did have shots on goal. We should put that context. 0 shots on goal, because I watched the game 3 times over. There was a shot, for instance, again when it got to Robbo, there was a shot from, for instance, Almiron that was headed on goal, but you'll remember Robbo turned his back somewhat, made himself big, and got a deflection from that shot. And that was when Almiron was claiming or trying to get a handball call, which wasn't even remotely close to it, but he was clamoring for a handball call. That was one of the few shots. And then I think another shot that's not technically a shot on goal was an Almiron shot again previous to that hit the post. And that was a good shot, but it hit the post, and those technically don't get marked as shots on goal. But he's right in that there weren't any shots that were problem shots per se, other than possibly those 2 attempts by Almiron after the red card. And it simply was because I believe by compacting the approach that we did. Again, there was another, even before that, there was another shot that Tonali had, that he had a drive into the box. He had an actual tight angle, but he had an angle on the goal, and Endo followed and cut and broke down the space and did a diving attempt that ended up being a block, and I believe it ended up going out for a corner. But that was, Endo covering his man, covering the pace, and making an actual block for an actual attempt on goal, or before it became an attempt on goal. Another good play, another, our players putting that extra effort when it came to, trying to get something out of this result. And when you saw, again, this concise, compact approach, and this is like Shar, we forced them into thinking, okay, well, they were having such success on the wings, and here we are, in essence, saying two players like Trent, two players like, not so much as Robertson, but more so with Trent, where we were seeing problems. We were saying, which was really, really bold. You have to give it to us, or give it to Klopp. It's a bold tactic to say, we see that you're getting at us on the wings. We see that we're having issues or problems with containing you on the wings. So what we're going to do is we're going to concede that you're going to have dominance on the wings, but we're going to create dominance centrally and in front of the net. That was, in a sense, it's almost as if we kind of got a low block mentality, in essence, with this 10-man squad, in that we were saying, hey, you know what? It's all well and good. You can control the outside with Gordon here, with Shar. You can control, obviously, with Almiron getting his attempts that he ended up getting. Trippier didn't really contribute that much, in my opinion. But once we do, if any ball is in the central portion of the field, we were determined to say, with the pace and energy of Elliott, who you have to give credit, was a great energy boost to the team. He brought straight energy, he brought straight determination, and was just a dog on the field when it came to hunting down the ball and whoever, putting pressure wherever that ball might have been. Dom, once again, there's a reason why the lactose test showed that this man has not only heart and determination, but he's got an engine in him that, if you see his heat maps, you will see and understand why he was so well and did such a great thing. You know what, too? And you're right. Let me pull up. There's been a lot of criticism there was a lot of criticism for Howe's substitutions. I don't really believe he had any other choice to do the substitutions that he did. One, because I don't believe that they had the depth that we have. They just don't. I believe on paper, they're a good team versus our on paper club. But realistically, I don't think that they measure up even to us. No, all respect due to their team. They're an exceptional team. I just didn't think that they had on paper a team that was going to be hands down, heads above our team that we were going to present that day. So when it came to, let me pull up this too. So when it came to, this is what we were dealing with when it came to their lineups. So they ended up subbing out Target. They ended up Botman for Target. They ended up subbing out Alice Anderson for Joelinton in the 82nd minute. They ended up subbing out Callum Wilson for Isaac. Tonali at the 72nd minute. So they made a 3-man change and then a 3, a 1, and then a 1. I think that the reason why Howe had to change and transfer the players and in the position that he did was because I think that he knew that this was Klopp leaning towards making a real last-ditch offensive surge towards players that were tired. That's personally how I see it. I think that he was looking at it as this is his real opportunity to get players involved that were going to be the players that were going to be the last surge of offense for Liverpool and the last efforts of having the legs to take on those players. Because again, we spoke about the subs that came in. For us, we had obviously Diaz came out for the red card, and we had Endo coming out in the 58th minute for Elliott. But once we included Elliott in that 58th minute in the second half, that was an insertion of energy and pace. Then, and also bringing in Hatta was an assertion of not only energy and pace, but again, both two very devoted, defensive-minded, counter-press, defensive-minded players in their attention to that counter-press. And then once we did make the final change, look, we made the final change with Matip and made the final change of McAllister. I think what that was is that Matip, I don't believe Matip is 90 minutes match fit at the moment. And I also think that he gave a relatively good effort considering he's not 90 minutes fit. And I think that he also gave some real balance to the club considering we didn't have Virgil in there. We didn't have the balance of a lot of the players that we would have normally been looking at applying. So let me pull up this one and pull back the tactics while that reloads. SofaScores does like a refreshing so that they always are fresh with the scores. So I think that when we subbed in those last subs, I think personally was Klopp saying, look, I get many might have been like, well, why are you pointing out McAllister? McAllister is obviously an able player that's going to be able to, make a difference in those things. But we had to pull off someone that we weren't going to pull off obviously Hatta or Elliott, who we just placed in our midfield. Dom, I think, has a higher work rate, and we would have gotten more out of Dom than we would have McAllister. So we need to find someone in that midfield, if not that front line, that was going to be able to be replaced by Nunez to create that last. Hey, this is our main player that we're looking to get some offensive threat from. And we also said that Matip being done and dusted, or not done and dusted, but like as in being spent. Right? The only other options we had on the bench was Tsimikas, Bajcetic, and Doak. So bringing in Jarrell was a huge tactical play to say that we believe that we're going to put in that back line, once again, have in that back line basically have Gomez, and let me bring out Matip, to have Jarrell and Gomez holding it down in the back line was huge. Let me get up some of these quotes. Again, in the chat, please include your insertions of what you want to say. And again, if you can't, or if you don't want to type it or chat it out, then you can even for me if you want to verbally address or put your comments in, because hey, this again, I'm a man of the people, I'm the voice of the believers, and as long as you're a believer, I believe that hey, I'm willing to listen to what you have to say and what you have to include. So let me see, it brings up some of Brian's comments here. Gomez had a great game away at Newcastle. Should be one of our toughest. We neutralized them. Our subs worked. House didn't. I agree with that. I believe that House didn't work the way that he planned on them working. I think that if he didn't make those subs, we still would have gotten at them. And it would have been, if anything, easier to get at them because of the amount of wear and tear that the gravity of the game was presenting, as in, sometimes your anxiety and you holding on to that 1-0 lead, and you knowing that this is a club you haven't beaten since 2015. The fact that we have 10 wins, 4 draws against this club. We're one of the few clubs to have done a double over Newcastle last year. All that in the back of their mind adds to the high bar or the rings in the ladder that are placed in trying to get over that line. It's difficult, and I think that Hal knew he had to make a sub, or he had to do something, because these players were going to be gotten at, and you could see that. I'm trying to think of when it was. Towards, like, there were times when, after Elliott was inserted into the lineup and Hatta was inserted into the lineup, you saw us start to get some real opportunities. Our 3, obviously the 2 chances with Nunez are huge, but our 3 real big opportunities were created, or 4 big opportunities were created as a result of those changes and of those substitutions. And even with 10 men, it still made a major difference. Because now all of a sudden, when you have Hatta pressing, when you have Elliott pressing high, when you have Dom pressing high, when you have Salah was working, and I give credit, and this is what I would love to see more of from Salah, is that real dedication towards tracking back, doing what we saw Mane do a lot, and was unfortunately not heralded or appreciated as much, because you don't that inclusion in the process, or that inclusion in our system, isn't something that gets statistics. It doesn't get numbers. It's not the eye-watering, oh wow, because of this. Not many people comment on, oh, this player played well because he tracked back. But Salah was tracking back, helping out on that wing, helping out on trying to push it into the middle where we had plenty of cover, and we had the proper people involved. Again, Elliott, again, Dom, again, Hatta, that we knew could retrieve the ball back from tired legs, from some real tired legs. And even some players that aren't to the level of what we think, or what a lot of Newcastle or a lot of the rest of the league think that Newcastle has on this club. I think Newcastle's a talented team, but I do think that they don't have an exceptional bench. They don't have exceptional depth. And I think that it showed when they started to make the actual substitutions, and what he was forced to have to deal with. Let me pull up again. Let me see if I can get this. That's the EPL. Let's see. Yeah, so by what we saw too, again, when it came to, let's progress into the Nunez part, because I want to get in some ratings. I want to also get into some ideas and what you guys felt were maybe your most undervalued player on the pitch. People may undervalued. I'd like to hear what you guys think of as your most the player that you believe was not given the proper attention to. And cool. We have Quasi about to join the telecast, so that we can get into the ratings, and we can dive right into that. Let's bring up the ratings portion of it, and I'll bring in Quasi as well.
Hey, brother, I apologize. I got
Quasi. Quasi.
Thank you.
Quasi is from Quasi Bowl TV. If you don't know, now you know, as they say, right?
I recognize.
You better recognize, right? And we were getting into some of these topics earlier on his broadcast earlier, which if you haven't seen, please do go back and revisit or if you have, revisit it. But also, if you haven't, go and show love by checking out the broadcast. Really good insights, really good commentary on the refs, on topics of on the club in general, and some comments that I really valued and I thought are important to bring out about Allison. So, okay, Quasi, if you want to say hello to the people, please do right now.
Good. Thank you for inviting me. I apologize. I got jumped into a meeting at work, so that's why I'm a little bit later.
Yeah.
Big up to the chat as always. Please hit the like, hit the subs, and let's go.
Let's go. All right, so let's get into. I appreciate. I want to get not only the chats. I'll do what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get like the chat being a collective number. I'll take your number. I'll take my number, and then we'll kind of like evaluate and give what it is when it comes to these player ratings. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let me pull out the player ratings here. All right. And I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger for the people because I know it most likely is very difficult to see. Oops. Now you can't see it at all. But let me refresh it real quick. So all right. So one, before we even dive into, do you have any real insights of like the game? Some of the portions of the game that you felt were something that happened during the game that you felt should be addressed, or something that we should find as being that was under addressed, I guess you could say, about the game, Quasi?
This I think it's gonna take a while. Klopp hasn't figured it out yet. And actually, I was going to bring it on my show, but we were so overtime. I think we will get what Klopp is trying to do after the international break, because he's still experimenting. He's still trying to figure out a few things, right? So he knows the team is good. He trusts his team, and like even with the Newcastle game, we have control of the game. We were trying to figure out how to hurt them without exerting too much energy, because all they do is run.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So if you watch the game, especially the first half, you could tell we were picking our moments. We didn't worry what they were doing, and that's what I think a lot of the fans don't get what Klopp is trying to do. He's not gonna go gung ho like we used to know him. He's just gonna build a team that picks their moment.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So even when we went a man down, we still have control of the game. That's the Newcastle that everybody says the best, blah blah blah. We still had control of the game. Like the commentators, like, this is a classic club. He still wants to win. And then when we lose the ball, we sit back and defend it very well. So the thing, what I'm trying to see is after the international break, I really want to see where Klopp is going with this.
So the international break is basically what you're focused on, or would you say that the Villa game is going to be more of where we're going to see what we're going to go forward with when it comes to the players?
And it's going to be after Villa game.
You think it's after the Villa? So do you think that he was going to revert back to, even though, for instance, let's say with the inclusion, obviously, of what we saw with Nunez, you still think that we're going to see him say, "Thank you for your service, Nunez, but Hackbo, you still get the start"?
I think he might give Nunez a start, but it won't be a guarantee that he's going to start against Wolf or he's going to start in the game after. Because Klopp originally is Gakpo being the starter, but Gakpo hasn't got a chance to start because we didn't have McAllister had to move from a position.
Right.
And then this game was the game that he was supposed to see what he really wants to do, and then we got the red card. So we had to revert it back to what we started the season with.
Right.
Because if Nunez is the one that if Nunez is ready, as everybody think he is, he would have brought Nunez first before Jota.
Okay.
So I think depending on what we do this final day of the transfer window, we are not going to see what Klopp is trying to do until after the window, which is also after international break.
Right. I can understand that line of reasoning, because I think that there is a lot of a lot of direction. Because I know that right now rumors are I heard Czech Decore isn't in the lineup tonight for Crystal Palace. The fact that there's a lot of clamoring going on about we're making a real concerted effort to possibly bring him in. I know that there was talks about yesterday about there was some real concerted efforts to bring in Gravenberch. I know, and again, I know I'm cool with bringing in these players, but I really do have a question of where and how we could go from a place where we only have one designated DM technically, to a place where now we have 3-4 DMs on a team that doesn't necessarily need 3 or 4 DMs, and that's where I'm like, is it maybe an overreaction? Is it maybe if we do go down, because I still think that we are certainly interested in, and I hope that we are still interested in Andre, for instance. Is it too much of a reaction, or maybe possibly an overreaction, if we do bring in another, not one, I can understand one, but maybe 2, if not 3 players?
Well, Andre is like Thiago. Like you said, Thiago can play the 6. But a lot of times, Thiago plays 6 with supposedly another 6, right? Or Thiago is like the 6/8. Andre can play 8. He can play 6. He's the person he wants to bring now. I think sole focus is on DM. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And Klopp knows we have a lot of games. And then don't forget, Hendo is going to go to Europe, the Asia in January. And with what we have, if he goes, that means McAllister has to go back and play the DM, which everybody knows he doesn't want to do it.
Right.
So Klopp is trying to cover all bases. Now, if you bring Doucouré, that means Doucouré and Hendo going to go to their cup competitions. So
right.
It's and Andre could play both positions, so he's trying to cover all his bases.
Yeah, I can get that. A lot of people will see it as like Nunez, for instance, is going to end up playing a lot of the cup games and a lot of those like extra matches that we have to take on, even when it comes to Europa. And then also, we could utilize Endo for those kinds of roles as well, if not for platooning at the DM's position. But I also think that the inclusion of Thiago is going to make a real difference. Once we see Thiago get back into the lineup, I think it's going to make a real difference in the team and where and how we truly can evaluate the players under that pretense.
And that's the thing, because a lot of times people think he just wants the same players for the same position. No, all those players are different. They look the same. They all can play the same position, but they all bring different attributes. So Thiago, he could play the 6, but he's more of a controller. He's a pace setter. And now you've seen how we play. We are 200 miles per hour. Every time we get the ball, we're going forward. Sometimes chill. So imagine if you have somebody like Hendo and Thiago. That game is going to be according to our pace.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring up the ratings here. we're gonna go kind of backwards. I'm gonna rate the final team that was on the pitch for the comeback first, and then we can evaluate the players that were on the pitch even before that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna pull this up here for everyone. All right, so here we have the lineup here. Let's just I'll just go down the list as it says, as from top to bottom here. What were you rating Allison at? What was your and we're not doing halves, we're only doing whole points. So if it's a 9 or a 10 or 1 or a 2, whichever you want to place it at.
So my 9.9 is not going to work. Huh?
No decimal points in this. We're either rounding up or rounding down.
I'll give him a 9.
Okay. I would have given him a 9 too.
I give him a 9. The only reason because he did everything he was supposed to do bar 1 goal. So
I'm gonna make sure that the chat gets an opportunity to give their scores for the players too, because chat. Let me say it like this. I'm a man of the people. So when it comes to this, we're all in this together. All right. Mm-hmm. So I would like to definitely get a collective of what you guys think for these players and positions, and then we'll factor that into it along with our ratings as well. So for Allison, I'm rating him a 9. Quasi's rating him a 9. Chat, Brian, Chris, Jay Kismet. Hey, what's up, brother? Who else is in the chat here? I think Sri Hadouken, John Conway, or Ravi. Any of you guys want to tell me what you guys think? What is your rating on it on Allison? For right now, he's getting a 9, unless you guys tell me elsewise. Robertson, how about Robertson? What was your rating on Robbo's role?
I give him a 6.
Okay. 6.
And the thing is this, yeah. And there's a couple of people I'm going to give some ratings. You're going to be like, why? It should be higher. And this is a game where it was nothing of their fault. It's not their fault that they get low score because they were subjected to play a position that they were not supposed to.
Right.
Does that make sense?
I understand that.
You know what I mean? He stood on the left back for a long time and defended well. By a couple of times where Amaral had a little bit of wiggle room.
Right.
So it's not his fault that he just had to stand there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Because his general is gone. So that's why I could say a 7 because of the mentality he showed.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you understand that matters.
You know what I mean? Because that's what I'm saying. It's not their fault. A lot of them. I mean, Allison technically should get a 10 regardless of the goal, but
yeah,
you got to look at it. It's not their fault because yeah. Okay, let's go 7. Go 7.
You're gonna go 7. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 7. All right. Looks like we're gonna have to give him a 6 because the ratings in there. Chris Angel gave him a 5. Brian gave him a 6. Hey, yeah, that's why I said the Red Army. This is how we do it. You know what I mean? Like we're the people's army.
The people say so. They agree with my initial 6.
Yeah, they agree with the 6.
Yeah, I don't blame them.
I would have given him a 7. I think you're really going to see a difference in Robbo's play. I think the same with Trent's, by an actual DM being included and having a DM that's going to make up and cover the spaces that Robbo and Trent as well, especially Trent, but Robbo as well create by pushing forward. And you're going to need someone that's going to be selfless and not really interested in necessarily wanting to get headlines by, having the ball at his feet or creating opportunities or doing different things by trying to make goals. I think you're going to really see that a lot. So,
and honestly, I like this Robo because he was very, very controlled. He wasn't gung ho, running all over the place.
yeah,
A couple of times he rushed his tackle, but that was when we had 11 men. But when we went down to 10, he was very chill. He didn't do nothing crazy. He just focused on his left side.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that, and again, you know what? There was a shot that was on goal. It was headed towards goal by Almiron. Almiron had 3 really, really good shots that he should have possibly scored on. And that shot that I'm referencing was blocked by Robbo in the box. And that ended up creating an opportunity for us from that block, actually, which was a big, big play. But we would have been on him if he hadn't made the block, And I guess I'm giving. That's why I gave him. I possibly would have given him a 6, but I gave him a 7 for that reason. But again, I'm a man of the people, so looks like Rob was getting a 6. How about Gomez? What's your rating for Gomez?
6.
6 for Gomez. Okay, interesting.
Because he didn't play much. I mean, hold on. I know everybody wants to be like, oh, he played well an 8. But the thing is, he played. That's what I'm saying. It's not his fault that he's getting a low score because there's a circumstances fault. Just give him a 7. I'll give him a 7.
He had 6 clearances, 1 block shot, 1 interception, 43 touches, 90% accurate passing. He was 1 for 2 for long balls. Ground duels, he won 2 out of 3 ground duels, won 3 aerial duels out of 3 aerial duels. Okay. Had 1 foul on that he committed. It was more of a tactical foul, but was fouled twice. And even had a shot himself, apparently. His shots off target. He had 1 shot off target.
That's what I say 7. When it comes to passes, come on, it's him passing into Matip. That does not count.
I mean, you listen to a lot of those things. I mean,
passing it to the goalie.
And considering the attitude, myself included, who have said that I don't necessarily want to see him in center back position. I would prefer to see him in a right back position. I think that's initially the reason why he was warming up on the sideline, was because of what was going on with Trent and with the yellow card and with the real focus of play. I think we were about to see him come in for Trent initially, but when Virgil went down, we obviously had to make a call in bringing him in for that, more so for Virgil than more so for Trent. But being that he had to step up, you got to give him a 7 at least.
No, I'll give him a 7. You're right. The mentality also. That's a 1 by itself.
7? All right, so Brian's giving him a 7.5. I know we're not doing halves, but as a man of the people, I'll allow for you guys to give halves to kind of influence our votes. But us on the panel are just doing whole numbers. We're either rounding up or rounding down. So Brian gives him a 7. Any other votes for Gomez so far? So far, it looks like he's going to possibly end up getting a 7. I think 7 is a fair bid for him. All right, so we got him at a 7. All right, how about Kwanzaa?
I mean, the circumstance, he didn't play much, 15 minutes.
Right.
I give him a 5. He did well.
Played 13 minutes technically. Yes, you're right.
I give him a 5 because he came solid when we needed him.
Right. Only had 2 ground duels to contend with. 1-1. Lost the ball 3 times. 60% accuracy, not that great. Tried to dribble once but wasn't successful. Had 1 tackle. It wasn't really much for him to do other than be in position to be, to at least allow for them not to have space to move into. So
yeah,
you want to give him a 6?
No, 5.
A 5. Wow.
Yeah, we don't want to spoil.
The young man walks out into a 10-man squad.
Like you say, He played 13 minutes.
Down 1-0.
He played 13 minutes.
Yeah, I know. I'd give him a 6, just under the weight of what he had to battle against. The fact that he had to do a decent, not necessarily he had to be exceptional, but he couldn't be at his subpar level. Otherwise, we would have definitely struggled with that back line. I think you got to give him a 6. Has got to be what we're looking at. I agree with Brian. Brian gives him a 6. You give him a 5. I'm giving him a 6. I think we're gonna have to go with 6, being the mark. Trent Alexander-Arnold. What are you giving Trent? I know this is gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt me.
5.
See, wait a minute. You gave Trent a 5, and you gave Kwanzaa a 5. So you think Kwanzaa and Trent's?
I'll tell you why. Trent is the senior player. He's the captain.
Right.
He made way too many mistakes.
He did. Absolutely.
He did too many mistakes. This is something that we've been talking about for years and years and years. He needs to figure it out and fix it. We can't keep babying him anymore. Those days are over. But I will give him credit for him turning it around, especially in the second half, and being the leader that we needed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm giving a 5. It would have been a 3 or 4. But the fact that because the first half he got a 0. There's nothing he did the first half. But the second half, he was the leader. Mm-hmm. He stepped up and he played well.
How about this comment by Jay Kismet? That's, I think, is a quality statement too. He's saying, "I'm giving all defenders 7 because they played most of the game with 10 men and didn't let any more goals in from the one mistake that you get from your 5 rating Trent, your 5 rating Trent Alexander-Arnold."
And I will rebuttal it with the midfield played exceptionally well.
Right.
So it made the defense a little bit less work than what they were gonna do. Those guys could not come through. That's why they were kicking the ball to the side and running the whole time. They could not come through the midfield. The midfield was just stuck.
Right.
That's why.
I can deal with I can understand, and I can also concede that is a worthy rating of a 7 by Jay Kismet, but I don't think I would feel comfortable giving Trent a 6. Considering I know you guys, I saw Brian gave him a 5, you gave him a 5. I'm giving him a 4, to tell you the truth.
And you were saying I was harsh.
Oh, I told you I'm going to be. I think it was harsh to give him a 5 or to give Kwanzaa a 5 and give Trent a 5.
Oh.
I don't think that their levels were even remotely. That's the reason I'm saying it's harsh. But I think we'll settle on a 5. How about for Elliott? What are we looking at for Elliott?
No, I give Elliott a 7.
7.
Elliott, he brought the energy. He gave the pass. No, I didn't give a pass, but he blocked the ball that gave the pass.
Yeah. How about and again, chat, please just put in put like the name of the player and a number, so I'll know what your vote is, and again, we're a collective here. We're all part of this mighty Reds army, so your vote counts. All right, so please definitely include it in the chat so we can properly weigh it in and put it in with the players. So Brian, and I'm allowing for you guys to do decimal points. We're not doing decimal points on the panel, but you're allowed to do halves if you like, for the chat. All right, so it looks like 6.5 is getting marked off as Elliott. I'm giving Elliott a 7. I was leaning towards possibly giving him an 8. I think considering his block led to one of his block interception of a pass led to one of our goals. But again, there wasn't any real direct link up play or anything like that he created himself. But I have to give where credit's due, which is he stepped on the field and there basically the volume went from like Spinal Tap. It went from 10 to 11. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
when he stepped on the field. You have to give him credit for that. I give him a 7. So we're looking at 6.5 for him. You gave him a 7. I'm giving him a 7. Any other votes before I close the voting on Elliot from the chat? What would you feel Elliot is deserving of? Tick, 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 tick. Time is ticking. All right, we're gonna have to settle on a 7. Looks like. How about for Dom? What's your rating for Dom?
8.
An 8?
Yeah.
I can see that.
And him also is the same thing. It wasn't his fault. He couldn't do the stuff that we want him to do because he was, he had to change the way he plays because of what happened. The circumstance caused all these problems. So, he was very solid defensively. He stopped all the passes channels, the channel passes, he kind of blocked them off. He was all over the place, but he could not affect the game offensively as much. So I give him an 8.
Okay, give him 8. Brian's giving him a 7. K-Mac, what's your rating on Dom? Who else is in the chat? Jay Kismet, what's your rating on Dom? What are we giving him? A 7? I'm giving him an 8. Quasi, give him an 8. You said right?
Mm-hmm.
Brian's giving him a 7. Oh, big up 12 man. Big up 12 man from Quasi in the chat. Brilliant win. You refused to give up. Starwin stepped up on the pitch and said, "Hold my beer, Wills. I finished these Jordies for sure." Psychedelic Shaolin, appreciate you taking time away from the monks and joining us because he's definitely our privileged to have members of the Mighty Red Army here. But he's giving him an 8. Okay. So far we're seeing a 7 and an 8. So like a 7.5 in the chat. You're giving him an 8. I'm giving him an 8. It looks like we're gonna have to settle on an 8 for Dom, which I'm cool with. Dom brings energy. That energy I was speaking about, Elliot, is what we see from Dom from start to finish. That's something that I'm so souped on when it comes to his play.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go ahead.
I'll say he's always going to give you a 7. He's always going to give you a 7.
Yeah, I think technically, he's always so far from what I've seen, he's always bringing 8s.
Mm-hmm.
Because his talent alone progresses him further up from that 7. Considering that that you could get a goal from him, you could get some type of like big chance created or something along those lines from his foot. All right, what are we looking at for Hata?
That's kind of like the same thing as Kwanzaa.
I know he only Hata played 32 minutes though.
Give him a 6. Give him a 6 because he helped control the game a little bit, slow the game down. I give him a 6, and then he gave an assist.
Okay, so I was going to say some of his stats for the people, maybe to influence you a little bit. Had 19 touches. Passing wasn't very accurate, 70% passing, but I don't think Hata's ever been really the person that you see as being the passing menace. But had 1 key pass, tried a cross, didn't connect. Was 1 for 2 on ground duels, 1 for 4 on aerial duels. Lost the ball 6 times, but was fouled once, gave up 1 foul. And that's about it when it comes to his statistics. Had a real opportunity to score. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get his footing right.
The foot right, yeah.
When we saw Nunez give him a really decent pass back into the middle that he could have possibly, that, considering how we all look and view him being able to put goals in, being, clinical with his strikes, wasn't able to really get his footing right, and wasn't able to really get a chance or a shot on goal. End up falling over, if anything, when he had the opportunity. Okay, so we're giving Hata what now? Hata's getting a 7 from Shaolin. What do you give him again? I'm sorry.
6.
Brian's giving him a 6. Okay. What were you giving him? You gave him a 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I think that he also had numbers though, despite that he brought energy though. He did bring a real press-minded orientation of being in the right space that limited their outlets, limited the proper spacing, which is important, I think, for a counter press to work. It's not always about, just the energy. You have to be in the right positions in the right place to break down spaces. I think he was in it. But I can go with the people, I can go with you, and let's give him he had a 7, a 6, we had a 5. Let's give him a 6. Let's give him a 6. I'll give him a 6 as well. How about for Mo Salah? What are we giving Mo Salah?
7.
A 7. Okay.
Yeah. And it's also not his fault. The circumstance caused him not to affect the game that much. The thing is, in the beginning, he had a couple opportunities where he could have been more dangerous. But this thing of doing that Robin goal where he cut it to his left and then trying to shoot, curl it to the back corner, he needs to stop that. They see that coming. But he hustled, he played very well defensively. And then he played very well up top by himself too. So that's why I'm giving him a 7. And the pass.
7. Okay.
Exquisite.
It was an exquisite pass. I was leaning towards an 8 only because I thought what I saw from Mo was him saying, I don't have to be the man that scores. I think the fact that sometimes he takes individualism too far with the team concept and doesn't do the tracking back, doesn't do the 1-2s, doesn't do the assist creations or the pass creations for other players sometimes, in that he's so, mind central on wanting to be the star talisman, the goal scorer for our club, that sometimes he doesn't. It counteracts his ability to create for others. But I thought that once we were in a 10-man setting, then you end up getting it. What's this way? I'm trying to read what Brian said. Momo gets a 7 because I'm. You think I'm Mussolini or something? He says Momo gets a 7 because I'm conforming to your fascist.
Oh my God, that is a serious accusation. That's a serious accusations.
Yeah, I know.
Put him to the spike.
Yeah, right. So all right, so we're saying Mo's getting a 7 from Shaolin, psychedelic Shaolin. Brian Morrissey's giving him a 7 despite the fascist whole number edit. He's giving him a 7 for Mo. Let's see who else. Jay Kismet's giving Salah a 7. Got an assist along with Hata pushed up forward at the end when we needed it. I agree. You're giving him a 7 as well, right?
Yes.
I'm the lowest here. I'm the lone person giving him an 8, but it's all good. I'm a man of the people, like I said. So Mo gets a 7. All right, he gets a 7. We can deal with it. All right. Now with Nunez, All right, now we get to the fun part of it. What we giving Nunez? We need Redbird in the chat. We get a whole lot of fireworks. But what we giving
Nunez, give him
Nunez?
a 9.
You gave him wow.
A 9.
Wow, you are a tough teacher.
No, I mean, he has to be perfect. He played, what, 20 minutes?
Right.
Remember, Allison saved us from 4 serious goals. You see what I mean? So, and I think they both, basically, they are the winners of the team.
I feel you. So you give him a 9. I want everyone to realize that it was Quasi that said it was Quasi that said this guy over here that said the 9 when it came to Darwin, the ambassador.
Yeah.
I'm with the people here on this one. I'm with the people with this one. Giving him so we're getting a 10 for Nunez from Psychedelic Shaolin. Oh, okay. Brian Morrissey is with you with the what did he call it earlier? The
fascist?
No, not even the fascist. I guess the l'équipe scoring method. But he's giving him a 9. He's giving Nunez a 9. I'm giving him a 10. I know that I saw in the rating. Well, someone else gave him a 10. So Psychedelic Shaolin gave him a 10. Oh, Jay Kismet gave him a, what number is that? A 1 million out of 10. So, but he gave him a 10. So Brian is now okay. Brian, I think, is now upping up his grading to giving him a 10. It was a special outing for this player. You have to give it to him for that. The only other player that I would have possibly given a 10 to would have been Allison. And I get it. Gordon's goal was a goal that he possibly could have stopped, considering it went through his 5-hole. But I still think that he had an exceptional save. He had a couple actually exceptional saves, but he had possibly one of the saves of the year so far. I get it's early in the year, but that is going to stand the time of the entire year and get it through.
The season, nobody's going to have that kind of save this season.
Oh, okay. My fault. Brian is sticking with the 9, but he's saying, I'm holding that 10 for a truly special. I don't know if you could ask for any more of a special performance by a man who came in for 13 minutes in a 10-man squad at Newcastle and scored 2 glorious goals.
But he played what, 15 minutes?
Yeah, that's
not fair to Allison.
That's pretty special. Now I do, Brian. I'm holding it as Brian has a high bar when it comes to my man Darwin Nunez or special, I should say, special performances. But all credit due. I still think that we are looking at the 10s have it. You and Brian gave him a 9, but it looks like Shaolin Psychedelic Shaolin gave him a 10. Obviously, Jay Kismet gave him a 10. I'm giving him a 10. I think our boy Darwin the Ambassador is going to end up getting a 10 for us under the ratings. He says 10s are for cup finals, etc. I got you. Understand. I think this is a big game. This is a big game. It's not a cup final, but the way that we saw this team react, the way we saw them celebrate at the end, you would have thought it was a cup match. You would have thought it was like an actual, final or an actual
Let me say something about that.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Rival fans don't get it. They're like, "Oh, look at them. They acting like they just won the league." Today on my show, what do we talk about? The psychological impact of that win. Come see us by the end of the
Yeah,
season and see what that win means.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I can agree on that. I can agree on that. We can let's give a quick for the other starters that played. We can do some other quick evaluations. I think that's how you add them. Hopefully, I'm adding them correctly. For Endo, what was your rating on Endo?
Ooh, Endo, you have to give
I'm
him a
gonna bring it
7,
up.
man. That guy was working. He was working.
He was working. I think that people are recognizing. I'm glad to hear that you're recognizing that. I know it
People did
wasn't a
not.
breakout performance in the sense of scored a goal or gave an assist or create some big chance, but I think that
Mm-hmm.
he's doing that like lunch pail work. He's doing that like hard hat style work when it comes to being the player on the pitch that's going to have to cover a lot of pitch. That's going to have to cover
Mm-hmm.
for players like Robbo, players like Trent that are pushing forward, for even
Mm-hmm.
some of the players like Dom or McAllister that are going to be pressed forward in more advanced roles. He's going to have to cover a lot of space. He's going to get the pace down. He's going to get the change of how the pace of the Prem works.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that like I agree. Psychedelic Shaolin gives Endo an 8. Brian Morrissey gives Endo a 6. What was the rating? You gave him a 7, did you say?
Yeah, 7.
Okay, you're giving him a 7. So we have a 7, 6, 6, 7, 8. Any
That's
other
for 7.
ratings before we close the bracket of the window on Endo? I'm going to give. I wouldn't go as far as an 8, but I would definitely give him a solid 7. I would give him a solid 7. I can't necessarily give him an 8 out of premise that an 8 for me for Endo would be when I see him make like a clearance, or where I see him make some like a goal line clearance, or maybe he's in a set piece where he gets his head on the ball, that kind of thing. Or he was just a very determinate player when it came to locking down our defensive set pieces. But yeah, I would give him a solid 7. So we're looking at 6, 2 7s from the panel. We're looking at an 8. Okay, looks like Endo's getting a 7.
Mm-hmm. See, with Endo, people are not going to know.
How about for Matip?
Yeah.
What are we looking at Matip real quick? What do you want to include?
I was going to say, people are not going to see how good he is until we actually dominate a team.
Yeah. How about people aren't going to be able to see him until we actually have 11 men for a full 90 on the pitch?
Exactly.
How about that? Yeah. Psychedelic Shaolin, I mentioned that earlier. Endo, he gave this point. He said Endo jumped in front of that volley as if he didn't care if it snapped his ankle. It wasn't moving. He wasn't moving like Carragher back in the day, ready to die to stop a goal. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Endo, Jay Kismet did end up trying to sneak in a vote for Endo getting a 6. I'm going to be partial and say it's a little late, but it's all good because Jay Kismet is my boy. So I'll note. I'm giving note to his vote for sure. Let's see, and let's see. Brian Morrissey is saying, if Messi puts in a world-class performance and scores a hat trick via Brazil in a World Cup final, the max score he can get as a 10. So 6 is good, if you get me. That's what he's saying. And I understand what you're saying. I understand. It's you're impacting the level of the match, the level of our opposition. You're factoring different variables in what your ratings go, and I can understand that. Again, let's go with Matip. What were you giving Matip, people? And we have Yeah, McAllister, Diaz, and Hackbo left. So Matip, what are we giving Matip? I'm giving Matip I'd give Matip a 7. He was
I
solid.
agree.
Didn't
I was gonna say
necessarily hurt us. We didn't see necessarily a lot of what I like to see from him, which is the driving runs, that he does with his dribbling into the opposition. But that's again because we had 10 men. That's again because he had to be more of an anchor, a center back, less than a protruding center back. So I thought that he was solid. I thought that he didn't get you didn't see him get like burned or see him get really oppressed at all. In my opinion, I give him a 7. Jay Kismet is giving him a 6. What are you giving Matip?
7.
A 7. Okay. To the chat once again, what we're giving? What are the other views on Matip? I thought Matip had a decent performance. And we only have 3 more players. Then we're going to wrap up here. I think Quasi's got to take a call. Business first for sure. But are we looking at 2 7s for Matip? Any other votes? And then we have, let's see. We're going to go. I'm going to do like an auctioneer. Going. 6 for, okay. A 6 for Matip from Brian. Okay. Oof. So now we're at a fork in the road. Okay. Oh, Psychedelic Shelley. Matip gets a 7. He was okay. Again, I agree, and I get Brian's rating considering how he referenced it earlier. He gets a 6. So we have 2 6s. we haven't gotten to our Colombian brother yet, Chris, but we are about to get to him in a second. I'll bring him up next. But we're currently this on Matip. So it looks like we're giving Matip a 7 for Psychedelic Shaolin. We're getting a 6 from Brian. We're giving a 6 from Matip from Jay Kismet. I'm giving him a 7. Quasi's giving him a 7. Looks like Matip is going to be at a 7. Looks like he just squeaks out a 7 when it comes to that. All right, how about for Diaz? What are we looking at Diaz? What are we rating Diaz? It was difficult because Diaz didn't get an opportunity to really cook. And I thought that this was a game that we would have seen Diaz cook. And I'm surprised. Diaz, I understand Chris is obviously going to give Diaz a 10. No shame in the bias there. But Jay Kismet is saying, he's saying Diaz 10 because he was the one who offered for the team to go and win. Okay. Very interesting perspective.
His mentality, he wasn't frustrated that he gets up.
You saw that on his face. I saw that too.
He was so disappointed, but he's like, hey, for the team.
Yeah. Psychedelic Shaolin saying Diaz had a 9. Shame he didn't get more time to shine, but he was cooking them. Agreed. Diaz, Brian saying Diaz was a not applicable, basically because he really didn't get that much playing time. He got 33 minutes and was subbed out in the first half. Let's see. I'm going to include some of your parts and points. Diaz's face when he was taken off was like, wow. But at the end, he was the one who was celebrating the most. Spot on. Chris Angel saying if it was Salah, that reaction would have been different. Agreed. Brian's also saying he had no time really to get a real quality rating. I can understand people saying what they did. I mean, he had 33 minutes played. He had 1 shot on target. He had 1 successful dribble attempt. He only had 2 passes, but he was, 1 of 2 for passing. Was 1 for 3 in ground duels. Aerial duels was 0 out of 2. Lost the ball 4 times, but had no fouls on him. and was dribbled past only once. Didn't really have a time to really connect and really shine in the game. But he was, out of all the players, he was the one of the most likely out of the front three that I could see being able to create the most problems for that Newcastle back line. He just wasn't able to give it, and that's the reason why I think his face, as Jay Kismet said, was what it was when he was like, you know what, I'm surprised that you're subbing me, like, you know, but I can understand the fact of someone's got to be subbed out. We obviously have to continue to try to keep some shape and form in the midfield, and we're going to have to replace someone in the back line. It's that simple. So, you know, he was just the card that got played by being the person out, considering that we were going to continue to see. We're going to probably be able to create a more defensive-minded presence with Hakpo, and obviously you're possibly not going to sub Salah out, despite the fact that, you know, it ended up being a good train. So it looks like with all those high ratings, we're going to have to give Diaz. Wow, we're going to have to give Diaz. I mean, Shalin gave him a 9. Kismet gave him a 10. I mean, like, Chris Angel gave him a 10. They're stacking the deck for a player that didn't play that much.
I'll give him a 10.
So, you know, I think Brian didn't even give him a rating. He gave him an NA. So, you know.
That's what I would give him back.
Yeah, I would have possibly gave him a 7, to be honest, simply because he just didn't have the time enough to cook it up to an 8 or a 9, in my opinion. But geez, we're gonna have to give him an 8. That sounds really crazy to give, but all right. Power to the people. Once again, Mighty Reds have spoken. I guess we got to give him an 8. Hopefully, that's acceptable from my brethren, Chris Angel. All right, the last 2 players that we got to rate on this train would be Hakpo, Agent Cody. How do you rate Agent Cody in this match?
7.
7. Okay.
He worked hard.
He's a player, again, I didn't think got a real opportunity to cook. He played 58 minutes, but I don't think I saw what we're expecting from him. And because the game changed so desperately by the red card and by us compacting the middle somewhat, you know, I don't think we saw really what we wanted to see. I mean, again, he only had 25 touches. He used 66%. He had 4 accurate passes. We only saw him do 1 cross that was unsuccessful. He had 1 key pass. He won an aerial duel. It was 5 out of 9, so obviously he was active when it came to putting the defensive pressure in. He had 1 clearance, 1 interception. So I guess a 7 could be, you know, a generous, if not acceptable one for Hakpo. Jay Kismet's giving Hakpo a 7. Or Shaolin is giving him a 7. I feel you. Brian's gone rogue again and give him a 6.5. Okay. So much for my fascist dictatorship going forward. But he wants 6.5. So it looks like we're getting a 6, a 7, a 6.5. You're giving him a 7, right?
Yeah.
I want to give him a 7, but okay. Well, Chris came in and said, "Hold my drink." Giving Hakpo a 5. Okay. So yeah, even if I do give him a 7, that's going to bring Chris Angel's
the newness agenda.
Pull that down. Let's say Hakpo a 6. It looks like he's going to be getting a 6. All right. And finally, last but not least, we're looking at McAllister, who again got subbed out in, I believe, the 77th minute. You saw this was the final play. This is the final play. And I guess you know what. And let me clear up this too to the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when it comes to ratings, I look at ratings. That number is somewhat kind of like a grading. And like I would say, if it was 1 out of 10, obviously, which it is, it's like saying he got a 60. And if I was in school, a 60 is a D, a 70 or a 7 is a C, an 80 is obviously a B, a 90 is an A, and a 10 is obviously a 100 out of 100. So that's how I look at it when it comes to my scoring record or how I grade. But I can understand 5 being average in some people's minds. But let's see. For McAllister, we're looking at Jay Kismet giving him a 7.
Yes, I agree.
Shaolin gave Mac 10 and 8. He said he kept everything calm, controlled, and measured with the tempo again. I like that too. That's why I'm really looking forward to when we finally get a good display of what this team's going to look like when you have McAllister, when you have Dom, when you have Thiago on this pitch. And I don't care who else you have, whether it's Endo, whether it's Trent pushing into that holding midfield, whether it's Curtis Jones, whether it's any of the transfers that we're slated to possibly get. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun times. But okay, McAllister's getting some low ratings from the Red Army. So Brian's giving him a 6. Chris Angel is giving him a 6. That's definitely bringing the people's collective average down, considering we saw an 8 and a 7 from early votes. What were you going to give McAllister again?
A 7.
A 7. So we have a 7, 7, 8, 6, a 6. Anyone else? Because we've got some heads in the chat right now. We got some real Red Army people in the chat. Brian's saying me and Chris totally tanking these average scores now. You guys are. You guys are the Simons of the board here. So I guess we're looking at. Can we all agree? I guess you said 7. I'm gonna say a 7. I guess we're gonna give Mac a 7. Can't give him an 8. That was the outlier. It looks like the 6. One of the 6 is an outlier, but Brian's 6 is going to be marked off from McAllister's 7. You gave him a 7. I'm giving him a 7. Looks like we're going to give Mac a 7. All right. Overall man of the match, who are we giving it to? Obviously, it's going to either be Darwin Nunez or Darwin Dan Vassor. I'm pressing that name because it has some real relevance. It has some roots to his Uruguay. It gives shouts out to Uruguay, shouts out to his compatriots, shout out to his homeland. So it's either going to be Darwin and Vassor, Nunez, or it's going to be Ali, Mr. Allison. Who are we giving it to? Man of the match goes to, in your book? Nunez. Yep. Nunez. To the chat, who are we giving it to? Are we giving it to Allison? Or are we giving it to Nunez? Are we giving man of the match? And it's obvious it's between Nunez or Allison. But who do you want to give it to? You got a man of the match for Psychedelic Shaolin is man of the match is Starwin. I like that name too, by the way. Yeah. I hear Marion Salford. Marion says that a lot as well. That's her guy. Second man of the match would have been Ali and Gomez. Wow, Gomez getting an honorable mention. Okay. And Chris Angel gives Nunez, gives Vassor a shout for man of the match. Brian Morsey says Darwin again. Okay. Who do you think was the unsung hero of the match? It's a new title I'd like to try to give shout outs to someone. Who's the unsung hero?
Klopp.
Klopp. Wow. I like out of the box presentation. How about for the rest? Rest of the chat. Who's the unsung hero of this match? Who do you think isn't getting the proper pounding of the chest? Allison from Jake Kismet. Anybody else have any unsung heroes of players that might not be getting the headlines? Brian Morrissey is saying Jason Tyndall, I think, is the psychedelic Shaolin. I like it. I like that. See, this is what I like about the Red Army, that the Mighty Reds that I see support me and support this club. Out of the box thinkings. Psychedelic Shaolin is saying unsung hero. Endo. Wataru Endo being the unsung hero. Gomez. I like it. Gomez. Chris Angel saying Gomez. Unsung hero. Interesting. I like it. Jake Kismet going your route. Giving a shout out to you, saying Klopp as well. He made all the right decisions, and that was good to see. For someone that we are highly critical of. Absolutely. Tyndall again, being a shout out. But originally, Jay Kismet said, was echoing Brian's call for Jason Tyndall being the player of the unsung hero. Elliott won the ball for the second goal. He played well. Yep, agreed. He did play well. Ultimately, before we get out of here, let's hear your opinion. I'll give Quasi a quick moment to give what he feels about this team and the direction, and if he feels this was not only a signature win, but if this is a win that's going to be us looking back as being where this was like the jump start for the season for us, or if this is just another match that is a great win, but just another great, just one of possibly many great wins, but this wasn't the match that we're going to hang our hat as being the jump start or the signature match for this season so far. It's early. I understand it's only the third week, but again, how do you feel about it? Because you had your comments about Allison that were rightfully so. I think that's something that should be mentioned. So, how are you feeling about this win?
Very important to win. It is very, 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 very important because this could propel the rest of the squad to move up, get off that last season situation. If you guys saw Soboslai's tweet, he said, "We never give up." He said, giving up is not in our dictionary.
Right.
So even him, he just got here and he's already bought into that mentality monster. So It's not just the win. People are more happy because of the win. I like how we won.
Yeah.
Because now, and that's something I shout out to Zuberi. He said now teams are going to be like, wait a minute. These people, how are you going to beat them even if it's the last minute? They still could come back at you. So now
a lot of the comments are echoing what you have to say too. A lot of the comments are echoing, bringing context to exactly what you're saying about the character and the fight and the grit and the determination of, I've said it before, and I'll allow for you to land your point. Is that I said it before with I'm trying to think of who called me. I think it was Brian that asked me where or what I was referencing this comment from, and I was referencing it from D Wade, from a D Wade commercial that I saw about knock down 9 times, get up 10. That whole mentality of you can't keep a champion down, and that's where that monster, the mentality monster, I believe, originates from. That concept of we're going to, that whole Rocky mentality,
Yeah,
and where we have a good number of our fan base being the Adrians, being like, you can't win, you can't win. And Rocky, in that whole Rocky mentality of, we're going to go out there and give it our best.
we're gonna win.
I
And
know
this is the
we're
thing.
beaten and battered. We're going to give our best.
So imagine eventually when the refs leaves us alone and we have 11 guys on the pitch. It's. I'm telling you, man, we're gonna be all right. People, don't worry about. Yeah, we all know we need players. We need 2 more.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be all right. Liverpool's good. Liverpool is good.
Right.
It's just some of us just want us to be safe. We want us to dot all the T's and the I's. That's what some of us are frustrated about. But in terms of the squad itself, we're gonna be all right. Like you were saying, Thiago is not in. Curtis Jones is not in. What's his name? Stefan is not in.
Yeah. Which is I'm cool with. I'm not trying to rush Bišćetic back into this lineup. I think that it's great that we have him as an option on the lineup bench. I think it's great the fact that obviously the our medical team, which all of us have questions on, but our medical team is saying that he's fit enough to be able to go in and possibly contribute if necessary. It's also great to see that he is fit enough to be obviously participating in training and in actual engagement in training to the point where we can consider him being an option on the bench. But the fact that we're not having to utilize him and we're giving him a little extra time to mend and get more into the fitness, get more into shape, get more of getting comfortable with the mindset, which it takes to get past an injury, I'm cool with that. I'm definitely cool with that. I'm putting up some of these I'll put up the majority of your comments always to the chat. I always show love to my Red Army. So our mighty Red Army here. Yeah.
Even with Thiago, I don't want to see Thiago until after the international break.
Okay.
Let him heal.
Okay.
Let him heal.
I'm cool with that. Giving him an extra week wouldn't be bad.
Yeah.
I think he would be a bonus to us against a very difficult Villa team. I'm gonna be honest with that. I think people sometimes undervalue football IQ. I think people sometimes, it's the reason why I rated Endo, despite the fact that he is 30. I understand that number in a lot of people's minds constitutes that he's an older, maybe he's not someone that can handle the pace or the rigors of what it takes against these younger men. But I also think football IQ puts you in a position in place where you understand spacing and you understand how to go about a match without having to exert the same amount of energy. You understand when to place that energy out there, when to be able to, break down and utilize spacing better to compensate for the amount of energy that you see from like your Elliots or like your Doms and such. So I agree. I'll even bring in some of these points. Psycho Showing the same. Brilliant win, 1-0 down with 10 men away at St. James Park. It wasn't looking good for VVD. Red card, Star when the Savior finished them. Gomez is either top or flop. Consistency is key with them. I agree. Trent was pumped after the game. You could see that, absolutely. Haven't seen that fire in him for a long time. I think it's also because he understood the fact that he played miserable, the fact that he allowed for a lot of his mistakes and a lot of the crowd to get into it. And it was a difficult task, being that he was going to have to lead this team as the captain after VVD was shown the red. Let Joe step up, Brian saying. I think Quasi had to go real quick. Let Joe step up and support him. It's cool because we're about to land this plane. He's going to start now with VVD out. We've seen redemption stories before. Absolutely spot on, Brian. Brian also says, let's see how he goes because we're not buying another starting center half before Villa. I agree with that completely. I think if anything, it also says a lot of people out there, keep in mind, we're about to, if we do get another DM in, it kind of, it lessens the likelihood of us bringing in a center back. It solidifies that it's going to be another year of who I have no problem with. I love Phillips, but it's going to be another year of us holding on to Phillips as that insurance card at that central back position, in my opinion. That is when it comes to our acquisitions. Shaolin, yeah, and again, Quasi's saying, okay, no worries. It looks like Quasi's phone died. He had some technical issues. So as we're landing, let's see. Thiago will cook when he's ready with the fresh hip operation. Let's hope he has less injuries this season. That is exactly how I'm feeling. Psychedelic, Shaolin. Jay Kismet is saying Endo plays with his mind. You can feel with his positioning. Agree completely. He's a tactical player when it comes to it. I believe he also brings intensity, commitment, dedication. It's something that is necessary. You know, there's times and places when people were saying that Fab just wasn't engaged or wasn't involved in being that defensive midfielder presence that we needed last year. Maybe because he had other things going on his mind. Maybe because, you know, the injuries or him, or maybe the physicality that of all the mileage that that's been put on him, just was measuring up to where he wasn't able to bring the same intensity and levels that we come to expect from Fabinho. But if there's anything I can say about Endo, he's going to give you a 7 out of 10. If not, he's going to give you a 10 out of 10 when it comes to dedication and commitment and just pure energy when it comes to the pitch. Chris Angel saying at Liverpool 12th man, medically speaking, it makes sense to keep Thiago back until after the international break. Chris Angel is one of the first people that I've referenced when it comes to asking for a medical take on it. And I agree. I don't mind seeing Thiago, you know, get it pushed back. I know he's been in practice for the last week, if not two. But I think that they're doing what you're saying, Chris, and that is not taking a rushed approach to seeing Thiago be included in this lineup. Psychedelic Shalin saying the first goal was what happened with Trent. The first touch went missing. Gordon rattled him. I think Gordon is. I'm not going to get bleeped out. Gordon, keep in mind, Gordon is a player that was a part of the Everton Youth Academy. Was a player. I think he joined them at 11 or 12. He joined them at 11 years old. Joined Everton. Campaigned to get an exit from Everton as they were going through the relegation battle. Got his move to Newcastle. Played against Everton and cheered and rooted on the victory over Everton. Cheered and rooted on possibly seeing Everton get relegated. He is a beep. He might as I always think when it comes to Gordon, he shouldn't play in in football shorts. He should just play in Speedos because that dude is all about diving. He is all about diving. All right. We're gonna end it on here. So I'll go through some of your last comments. It's almost Wednesday in Europe. Window closes Friday. I get that. I agree. Endo positional awareness is brilliant. He keeps looking over his shoulder, always looking to be the person that helps the other player and will get into space and will get into challenges with no fear. Obviously, whether it's using his head or using his slide tackling. 48 hours basically to get 2 in. That's going to be a tough measure. Jay Kismet is agreeing with you, Brian. That's going to be a tough bar to get in two players that are going to be really two players that we'd like to see. Just Angel saying we need to get you more followers, brother. Your views are a lot different than others in the platform. I've become more positive from hearing you. It's only been 1% of a change though. I got you. Hey, if it's only 1%, that's still 1% closer to that positive mighty red army that I really want to see be the contingency of what we have for this club. Because I always say, hey, once you put that red kit on, you're a red. You're a part of the family. So I'm going to support you. I support all my family as much as I support each and every one of you in the chat. Always and forever, you'll never walk alone in my books. That's how I see it. And I appreciate the same sentiment that I see from you and from others that show the love. And I hope that these numbers definitely get up in the chat and in support of that effort. Negativity is the new crowd pleaser. Absolutely spot on. Gordon is a horrible player. He had one game plan to rattle Trent, constant fouls. I agree. The push in the back was him trying to get into Trent's head. He was definitely trying to get into Trent's head. Bejan Pops, big up to the Bejan Reds TV crew. Big up to Bejan Pops, especially. Always showing love, always supporting, anytime, every time. Much love to the Bejan crew for sure. And he's showing love, of course, to the chat and to myself. One love for sure. Brian's saying, no, man, negativity is the old crowd pleaser. The new channels are bringing in positive messages and are rising up. I hope that we rise like a phoenix, brothers. I live in Arizona. Phoenix is the big city, so I know Phoenixes very well. And I hope that is a feeling and a movement that we see. And we need that movement to be viral. I hope it is. Bless up, everyone. Great show. Appreciate that always. Like that Shaolin showing love. Keep cooking the content, bro. The numbers will rise. I hope so, brother. But you know what? At this point, to me, it's more about the quality and the quality of people that show the love, the quality of the chat that I see that are the supporters, the quality of people that are listening and bringing some real positive dialogue to the table. Hey, that's what I want. That's what I see. Informed, empowered Reds to be truly mighty Reds. That's what you all are. Big up to yourselves too. Let's see. There's plenty of LLC channels that love that negative vibe. It get views by Jacob. That's spot on. Big ups. Jacob saying the Bejan. Bejan saying the back. Saying hello to all. I know, man. I worked on them since 2016. Been right in the belly of it. I believe he's talking about his inclusion in the YouTube world, in the Twitter world. Okay, and another shout. So we're gonna wrap it up here. Again, I appreciate all the love. I appreciate you sharing this movement with others. I appreciate you, really getting the message out there that, having these people subscribe, having these people comment. Please do comment on the page, comment on the videos. Well after. The participation in the chat is much loved and much appreciated. It keeps the show rolling. It keeps the everything fresh for everyone, which is what we do. So fresh and so clean, like an Andre 3000. So I want that to be the mindset. And again, I appreciate all and every bit. I think my guys back here, I think that, I'm showing love to England and Colombia and France. Some of France's finest right here are all feeling it, all feeling the football romantic, as Bejan Pops puts it. But yeah, let's get this movement shared. Let's get this movement being a part of what we have out there representing our beloved Reds. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate the opportunity to be a voice of the believers. And again, I appreciate you tuning in. So we're going to do Tactic Tuesdays from now on. I'm going to be making sure that I have actually now an assistant that's going to start to help me going forward with making sure that I get my content ready and present it. If it ends up being that I end up having to go up against the big boys, I'm still going to just end up presenting this as an alternative, so that you can tune into their show, possibly tune into my show as well, or vice versa, or both. But I appreciate all of you. And you know what? I'm going to put up this banner to show you what my sentiment is. I'm going to leave you with this last part and point. You'll Never Walk Alone is not just a song. It's not merely an anthem. It's a statement of intent. And my intent is to never allow for you as my brethren to walk alone. And I don't think you'll ever allow for me to do the same. So by subscribing, liking, commenting, and sharing, especially to grow this movement, to grow our efforts, this becomes a movement to empower our mighty Reds. And that's all I want to have happen, because I want to give proper spotlight and proper praise to what I believe is the best club in the world, Liverpool FC. Thank you, and good night, people. Good night.